Welcome, and thank you for joining for another whiskey review. Today, we're going to take a look at the Glengoyne 30-year-old, 46.8% ABV. Dustin, we kept it in this box because this box was clumsy to figure out.
This is one of the weirdest things I've ever purchased. So, the first step here to open your Glengoyne 30, which has
a bunghole,
which is this beautiful wood box at the front.
Beautiful wood. Beautiful. What's that up?
Well finished, and if you look at that little piece of the front, and then
all the stuff on the back.
This piece of the front, this is metal. That is a metal plaque they put in there. It's gorgeous. Mm-hmm. And now, Mike, we have a
goofy bunghole on the top.
We have a bunghole we have to remove, which apparently keeps the box together.
If you're dependent on a bunghole to keep the box together, man, that's your first mistake.
There you go. And it's actually metal on the outside with wood in the center. Now we open this and we get two weird things here. First,
a piece of cloth.
There's a piece of cloth here which is needed to make the bunghole fit tightly.
Which is very clumsy to put in underneath the box and slide it together shut.
So then we come to the next thing. Now if you've had the 25-year going, you know the outside is this exact same cheap cardboard. And the inside is nice wood. Here they decided to make the inside the cheap cardboard, but they then still decided, let's go with this metal, this nice wood. Sorry, when I say metal, I mean, I can't open this thing here.
Glengoyne's always on the top 21, 25, and 30 always have this magnetic
so
seal.
when I say metal, it's magnetic here. It's nice wood, finished,
to
same
keep
quality.
It so you can slide the bottom out to give it more.
And then you slide this beautiful thing out. But it's all sitting here in cardboard, which is incredibly cheap.
Hey, easy.
Relatively speaking.
I sell boxes for a living.
I hope you...
They're practical, and it's a very sturdy way of handling things.
Yes, it is. Except when you just come with this weird thing.
It does not present well comparatively to the rest of the box. But you know what? Something I've heard, Dustin, is we do not have the same Glengoyne boxes in the United States as they do in the UK.
Are you sure?
Well, no, I'm not sure. But I will say this. I bought multiple bottles of the 25, and people in overseas, especially in Great Britain, say that's the 21 bottle, just with the 25 label on top of it. So I don't know.
That's the bottle, though. And I think you're right. This bottle for the 30 is different than the 21 and 25 we have here. And I'm told, I think what Mike's saying is, 25 uses this bottle, which is shorter, but fatter.
Yes. Is it not as tall of a bottle?
Yeah, and this is a little wider here.
Yeah. So yeah, this is a bottle for the 30-year-old. It has a much nicer cork. It's a little squattier than the 21 and the 25 that we get here in the United States.
And the 25 still have this dumb little doodad here, which
the medallion?
Yeah.
The medallion thing? No.
The thing is, the medallion works better on the thinner, skinnier 25. It's kind of in the way on the 30.
Yeah, funny thing about the medallion is on my 25 is down here, and on the 21 is down here, and you really can't get it down here very easy. I mean, maybe you can't. Okay, there you go. And maybe it's supposed to be down here, but this is also on...
That maybe makes it better. I don't know.
Yeah, this is also on the Lagavulin 25, this similar medallion. But I believe that it was meant to be up here because now it's in the way of this little emblem here, right here. I don't know
what they're going with. Now, the cork is like, it's metal coated, so you get a nice...
on the top?
Yeah, and you got like, it's got some weight, but it's wood and metal surrounding. Anyway, we've talked way too much about packaging, but they spent a lot of money on this packaging. Yeah, and it's weird.
Yeah, and we have gone back and forth. You have the 21 and the 30, and you also have the 25. I have a couple of 25s.
Yep.
And we've gone back and forth on what we thought was worth it because, at least for here in the States, in Ohio, the 21 is...
Well, in Ohio, we can't buy any of them.
You're right. So...
Not sold in the state of Ohio.
Correct. But once we get it from online distributors, you know, the 21 is one price. The 25 is twice the price of the 21.
And then another $30.
And then a little bit more. And then the 30 is twice the price of the 25. So we have been debating for the good part of the day, along with our buddy Keith from the Multiman Cave.
Yeah.
What is the better bottle?
Yes.
Now, we know that the 21 is 43%. The 25 is 48. This one's 46.8% ABV.
Yeah.
But for 30-year, that's an extremely strong offering and maybe very close to cask strength.
Yes.
So
they're also all first fill European oak, sherry, Oloroso sherry, I should say.
Now, if this is the first time you're to my whiskey channel, Glengoyne is a Highland Distillery, Speyside, yes?
I believe they're.
Highland, especially.
I think they're Highland.
Yeah, so definitely a sherry matured only whiskey, very similar to, say, Macallan, Glenfarclas, Aberlour.
And some of those do
Glendronach.
fall into the Speyside, but let's be honest, Speyside and Highland, there's really,
It's just geography.
yeah.
It's just geography.
Lowlands and islands and Islay start being different. Campbelltown's
Yes.
got a different note.
Yes. No, the main thing to take away from here is this is a non-peated whiskey that is
Yeah.
sherry matured only.
And Glengoyne is very emphatic. Their whiskey is never peated, and they, in bold, all caps, put it on every bottle they make.
Just you don't get you don't get confused.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what you're getting in the bottle. So we're talking typical sherry bomb. This particular one is a 30-year-old. We've had the 21-year-old tonight, and I have a couple of the 25s that I'll bring you here soon. But at least for today, we're talking this 30-year-old. All right. So what are you picking up on the nose?
So I gotta say, this is a bright fruitiness, which is unusual to me when I smell Oloroso sherry, European oak. I generally get darker fruits. This is bright. Now, I think this is one of the oakiest sherried whiskeys I've had.
Well, 30 years old.
You're right, but I've had 25s that you would think that's getting close.
Well,
This has got, but yet the oak and that bright fruitiness, not the darker fruitiness, they beautifully go together. I mean, it's incredible how nicely they go together.
Yeah, the sweetness definitely jumps right out the glass. So it's a type of sherry finishing that is similar, not the same, but similar to Glendronach, where it is a sherry punch for you.
Yeah.
It's not like Glenfarclas or Macallan, where they're lightening up on the sherry, where you're picking up more of the distillery characteristic. This is sherry forward whiskey.
Yeah, I can
period.
tell you the oak, and I can tell you that there's sherry cask. I have absolutely no idea what Glengoyne's malt smells like based on this.
Correct.
And I do get a great bubble gum here, which I really like.
So sweet. So
I really like it. It's beautiful.
Anything that's aged 30 years, you're gonna lose most of the distillery characteristic. And when we were comparing this, say the 25 and the 21, we all said this is a far more balanced whiskey. It's not as sherry forward as the 25 by any stretch of the imagination, even though
Believe it or not,
similar ABV.
what some might call over oaked, I think has actually balanced this beautifully.
Oh yeah, the amount of sherry sweetness in the oak is almost. I mean, maybe a little bit more sherry, but it's 55, 45.
But what's beautiful, again, I keep talking about, is how bright this is. This actually makes me think more of a PX to a degree, because PX tends to be brighter. Oloroso tends to be darker, and this has a brightness that reminds me of that, but I know this is Oloroso. And it's got all that Oloroso notes.
Yeah, you know what this, and I made this comparison earlier, comparing the 25-year-old Glengoyne to the 30-year-old Glengoyne is similar to comparing the Glendronach 18 and Glendronach 21. Now, the Glendronach 21, I know why it's not as big of a sherry punch, because they use Oloroso and Pedro Jimenez sherry.
Yeah.
Very similar to like the Bowmore Devil's Cask version 3. I don't know if this is using both. From what I've read, it just is using one.
I'm fairly certain.
Oloroso.
First fill, European oak,
Oloroso. And I got to tell you, that extra 5 years of maturation did something to this whiskey that is just magic, as far as being very gentle to the whiskey itself, not putting too much sherry into it, letting the distillery characteristic take a third, letting the sherry take a third, and letting the oak from the cask take the other third as far as the experience.
And I do know that they claim that they never use, or they generally don't use more than 13 barrels when they blend these for each year. This is the 2018 or 17?
I'm not sure what year this was. It's written
This is
down right here.
This is the 18.
Yeah, it's nice to give you a lot of information, right here at the bottom of the cask. I mean, it says limited release. It says the number of bottles, or excuse me, the number bottle. So you got 5,200, or is that the?
I think that's the number of bottles.
Number of bottles is 5,200. Okay.
So I think they're saying it's about 13 casks. They don't say specifically. They say that they generally use 13 casks for each 30-year-old. So you're talking about a fairly small number of casks. So it's not just the magic of the extra 5 years of age, but it's also they picked those casks very meticulously that they wanted for this profile, and they definitely chose a brighter sherry. And I love what they've gotten out of this.
Well,
had it gotten darker and more oaky with the 25, I don't think I'd enjoy it.
No. There is only so far, very similar to Talisker, very similar to Highland Park. Once you get past that 25-year-old age, which I'm a huge fan of, I think that's most of the distillery's sweet spot. Once you get into the 30s, these super old age whiskeys, when I mean 25 years plus, you really have to take into account casks that actually caress the whiskey and make it and have a more of a gentle feel rather than the overpowering characteristic that a overperforming cask would give you.
Exactly.
You have to take casks that were, I don't want to say underperforming, but were gentle to the whiskey to make it that 30 years. Where I think a lot of times 25, you can still have an aggressive cask.
Yeah,
And it'd be okay.
More so. I mean, you know, the ones that make it, you know, only 12 years, those were the more aggressive casks.
Sure.
Yeah.
But, you know, okay, so for instance, I would say if these casks were over, say, a third of them were first fill, I'd be stunned. I would think they're probably mostly refill, if not all refill.
Yeah.
No?
Exclusive first fill on 21, 25, and 30 is what I've read.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, well, then I didn't know that, and I should probably edit that out, but I'm not, because I want to be transparent with everybody.
I'm almost positive.
Really?
I'm positive 25 and 21 are. I'm
All
almost positive this is first fill as well.
Okay. Hey, you know what? Never claimed to be the smartest guy in the world. Maybe that's the case. If you know anything for sure.
If anybody's got any more knowledge down below, because I'm not positive on the 30, but
Put in the comments
pretty
section.
Sure I read that.
This is only my second time with it, and this is your bottle.
Yep.
So, you know, you would know better than I would, but...
I did a little research before I bought it, but I'll be honest, the 25 was so good, I had to find out what the 30 was going to do, and Mike hadn't bought one yet, so I figured I had to do it.
Yeah, I would be stunned if you would have told me, but just by the nose and the taste, this was 30-year-old whiskey, and on top of that, the whiskey was first fill. It doesn't seem like that to me, but hey, if that's the case, they picked the right cask for it. You know what I mean?
I mean, you're just being blown away by it. But you know, there is the question I would get is, sometimes brightness is the result of second fill. Mm-hmm. I think they just found some barrels, and they may have used some giant sherry butts, you know. Those are big barrels they used.
Sure, you know, but this reminds me of the difference of the current Taliskers, it being a 25 and the 30. You know, the 30 is far more fruit forward and far more oomph than you would expect if you had the 25 first. Does that make any sense to me?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, so and they're at the same ABV, and I kind of feel like this, you know, it's a similar to the 25. The 25, again, like Glendronach, you know, it's so much more of a sherry punch than this 30-year-old is. If this is truly mostly first fill or all first fill,
we have done side by side. The color's identical between the two. You cannot tell the difference.
So that would almost make me think it's different between how the cask actually performed.
And where they sat, maybe.
Maybe.
These may have been casks that, you know, were cooler, more dunnagey, just to keep from adding more.
You know what, that's what I love about, especially trying to, you know, dive into a whiskey that I don't personally have multiple bottles of. It's just, you know, I only have limited exposure now. We've had a couple drinks of this tonight, and you've drank it down, and you've said it's gotten to a good point where the sweetness kind of came out from when you first opened it.
I will say, when I first opened this, the oak was so much, I was a little nervous.
Which is why I always want a bottle to be open a couple months before I review it. I mean, this is a drink down fairly far, but today's been my first experience with the 30.
Yeah, I think there's been 6 people to drink it today, so it's been shared.
Regardless, I'm really appreciative that you were able to give this to me, because I'm going back and forth on whether or not to buy this, because I'm a huge fan of the 25.
Yeah.
Now, as far as the nose, I think we covered that pretty extensively. What are you picking up on the palate?
Man. So, there is a lot of oak on this. And it's beautiful. It's not too bitter. It's just hitting that just perfect note of just adding that, you know, complexity of oak. As I said earlier, that bright sherry, I'm getting a little bit of chocolate. I'm getting the plums, and I'm getting raisins, I'm getting dates. I'm getting some brown sugar. I'm getting a little molasses. But it's in a brighter, more fruity, vibrant way than I'm used to. Mm-hmm. But I'm not getting vanilla like they threw in a bourbon cask. I'm not getting like that tired oak as if it was refill either.
You know,
and that's where I'm kind of, when Mike's saying, you know, refill,
on the nose, it was confusing. On the palate, it's far more straightforward. You can tell that this is just beautiful oak that was subtle. It took a while for it to extract it out of the cask, and that's why you go a little bit longer with the maturation of it. Yeah. It's not overpowering, but that oak, it reminds me, again, I keep going back to that Talisker 30. It reminds me of a whiskey that had sat in casks that were both bold but subtle enough to take it 3 decades and still impart a nice oak flavor without overpowering it with whatever the cask was. That's my opinion.
And you know what's interesting? So European oak, I always talk about how it's very spicy compared to American oak. And
Agreed.
there's a spice here, but it's sometimes the European oak can overpower the whiskey and even the sherry casks. First fill or not, it didn't do that.
You know what this makes me feel like? They took a cask that wasn't blowing them away at 15, 20, 25 years old and took it the distance.
Yeah.
And they were rewarded for it. Because this wasn't a cask that was probably top 10 or top 50%. Initially at 10, 12, 15 years old. This maybe didn't make the cut for their earlier expressions.
Well, and you know, I mean, that's the kind of casks that are why we have Port Ellen today that are
yes,
30 plus year old that just became beautiful.
Let it go. You let it go.
Yeah. And maybe the thing is though, you know, if you're a bourbon drinker, and Mike and I have been drinking a little bourbon today here.
Sure.
And with bourbon, you know, at some point, just that charred oak is gonna eventually overpower the whiskey if you leave it too long.
At some age.
I don't think that happens is the same way with Scotch because first off, they're bigger. They're much bigger barrels when they do these sherry butts. I mean, they're substantially larger, and so there's less contact with that oak. And then you've got the difference in climate, which means they can let the ones that just didn't get the oak early on in use just sit, and eventually they get it. And that is what this has done, and it has just created a
that very much is what this feels like to me.
Yeah.
It feels like, again, I'm not going to repeat myself, but it feels like, you know, it didn't perform early, performed later, and we had time to wait.
Yeah.
And we had time to wait, and thank goodness we did.
And you know, the funny thing is, that's Glengoyne's like entire thing is, what's their slogan here? Natural color from time and sherry casks alone. Yeah. You know, their whole thing is that they're willing to wait to make the whiskey great. The sherry barrels they use, they put the sherry in those barrels for 6 years before they put the whiskey in them. So they spend 6 years.
They don't mind taking extra time.
And so they're one of those distilleries that's doing everything the right way. Unfortunately, as Mike and I've talked about, you have to get the older bottles before you get to that. I'm going to say the 18 is the youngest expression I would consider buying.
I wouldn't.
And Mike's going to tell you he wants to go older.
Oh, I mean, you know, for me, some of it has to do with ABV, but you know how big of a fan of the 25-year-old I am. That is the Glengoyne that I personally want to invest in and have a bottle of at all times. Now, that has to do with price point. That has to do with ABV and the style of whiskey it is. Now, I was hesitant spending twice as much money to buy the 30 for an extra 5 years. I mean, you're only talking a sixth of an extra age as far as maturation, and you're doubling the price. And it's putting you in the price of whiskey that is your Highland Park 25s, your Talisker 25s. It's putting into a range of whiskey that is very high. However, for a sherry matured only whiskey, to get a 30-year-old for $600, $650, that is a bargain compared to say what Macallan would charge. By a wide margin.
This is the same price as the Macallan 21 triple cask.
Fine oak.
Yeah, we're not even talking. I don't even think they do a Macallan 21 sherry.
Not that I'm aware of.
Not anymore.
But yeah, so I mean, this isn't. Yeah, I mean, this is a third of what the 25-year-old Macallan would be, and a sixth of what the Macallan 30-year-old would be.
I'll tell you what, this tastes like a more expensive whiskey than Highland Park 25.
Absolutely.
I don't know if it's better whiskey. It tastes more expensive.
It depends what version of Highland Park 25 you got, but
the current ones that are available.
Sure, the 45.7 I wouldn't necessarily agree with you, but that's a conversation for another time.
Yeah, but one of my point being is this. Now, mind you, not better. I just said this tastes like it's going to cost more to make.
Agreed. But I think sherry in general, sherry matured whiskeys have more of a...
They're just more expensive to make, is my point.
Yes. You know they spend money on the casks.
Are more expensive.
Absolutely.
And 30 years, you can tell this is 30-year-old whiskey. So when you say $600 for this one...
It's a deal.
It's actually a
single malt
good value.
Whiskey, yeah.
It's a good value if you are inclined to buy 30-year-old whiskey.
If you're inclined to buy $600 bottle of whiskey. Now, I will say this. Glenfarclas. You get some of their core range that is not the Family Cask series, and I've been disappointed with them. Now, they're less expensive, but when it comes to sherry matured whiskey that is unpeated, you have a few choices. You have the super premium Macallan brand. You have Abelauer, who doesn't readily make or not make available whiskeys that are over 18 years old. Yeah. So if you truly want an older sherried whiskey that is sherry only, you're very limited as far as your choice. As far as bang for your buck, I cannot stress Glengoyne enough as far as the distillery to go to. I'm also a fan of Glendronach, but this is a lower price point, and you get older whiskeys.
Well, there's no 30-year Glendronach standard.
Period.
release.
Yeah, period. Right.
They got a 21, and then you get those single casks. Which last time I looked, there's a 24-year-old single cask here in Ohio or Kentucky. We got to go south a little bit here. $750.
Yeah, very so similar price to that. I mean, again, bang for your buck, sherry matured whiskey. This is the one.
Yeah, I mean, this is, and again, I'm back to when I'm drinking, and I'm thinking like, what would this cost to make? This is an expensive bottle to make, and does that matter to you? I don't know. To me, it kind of matters when I think, because again, you don't always buy whiskey for the enjoyment at the price.
Sometimes you're paying for packaging,
and sometimes there's a flavor profile you want, and it just costs money to get that flavor profile.
that too.
So if you want super sherried, super old whiskey, there's only a few options, and they're going to be expensive. And this is probably the best priced one on the market.
As it compares to, say, the most affordable sherry whiskey, which would be a Glenfarclas.
Yeah.
It's a lot more consistent as far as the product you're going to get. If you fork over the money for a Glengoyne 25 or 30-year-old, which that's, again, where I think the kind of wheelhouse for this distillery is, you are in for a far more consistent experience bottle over bottle than going with a Glenfarclas 25 or a 30-year-old or even the 40-year-old.
Well, and I'll be blunt. I've got a bottle of 25 and a bottle of 17 Glenfarclas. They don't taste like expensive 25 or 17-year-old whiskeys.
No, they taste like tired cask whiskeys.
And so I don't even consider those, like, again, you're not paying for just age. You're paying for the quality of the casks they use. And Glenfarclas, in my opinion, maybe occasionally you get a good cask, but for the most part, the bottles I've had,
you prepare to be disappointed with the age statement.
You're not getting a 25-year, the experience of a real legit 25-year-old whiskey.
Agreed.
With those casks.
Agreed. And if you want that at a reasonable price, I got to tell you, if you want to share a matured whiskey, 30 years old, I would go with this. As far as a whiskey score, Dustin, I'm probably going to give it the best whiskey score of the night. 92 out of 100.
I am...
Beautiful whiskey.
I will match you, 92.
92 out of 100?
I don't think I like this more than the Springbank we had, but I'll tell you what.
I do. Only because of the profile. Not the Springbank. The Springbank Toma isn't a better whiskey in general as far as the crafting of it. I just prefer either hit me with a lot of peat smoke or hit me with a lot of sherry. One of the two. Or be a Balvenie.
Fair enough. I tend to find that with these super sherried whiskeys, I don't feel like I ever go past a 92, even if they're different, because...
To 9 Nick 36.
As soon as you bring a bottle of that. Because ultimately the sherry profile is kind of one-dimensional, and at this age with this kind of cask, the malt is gone. And I want the malt to play a role if I'm going to go higher.
92 and 100 is still a strong score, especially.
I doubt there's 30 bottles I've ever had I'd give that score to.
Yeah, about that. I think you're in the same ballpark.
Yeah, so I mean, and we've had a lot of good whiskey, Mike.
Yeah.
A lot.
Always. Cheers. I want to thank you for once again joining for another whiskey review. Until next time, I want to wish you all
Happy drinking, guys.
see you next time. Bye.